We all want to know who built these massive cathedrals, right? We all want to know who had the knowledge before we were all born. We want to know why we're being told that they were built with hammers and chisels. Today, I think we take a step closer to finding out where this incredible knowledge of construction truly came from, where we are all aware of the massive continent that was completely left out of our mainstream textbooks, the land of Mu. So let's go even deeper. When we go back to this article from the Courier Journal from 1925, nearly 100 years ago, where it reads, according to the records from Colonel Churchward and the East Indian High Priest, the records state that some people were brought by flying machines to India from the land of Mu in the Pacific Ocean. The records say that Mu was the motherland of man. In Mu was the Garden of Eden, where they had cities, where they learned to build palaces of marble. They acquired the skill to quarry gigantic blocks of stone and to transport them long distances and to carve them into human faces. Like we saw in episode 60 in Easter Island, where the records say that the people of Mu navigated the air and had ships where they sailed to far distant lands with rich cargo. And now that we know all of this, I want to show a few things. First of all, this is showing that the technology of flight has been here before, where the Wright brothers' story, creating the first plane in the 1800s, would be a massive lie, where they have this information stored and giving it back to us slowly, as we have discussed. Secondly, they mention in the tablets that the land of Mu was in the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean has been named the Pacific Ocean for 13,000 years? Or was the land of Mu here much closer to our timeline? Or is there more land? Not the entire continent, obviously, but are there other lands, possibly bigger than Easter Island and possibly bigger than Hawaii, left over from that cataclysmic event that are still here today and simply hidden from our maps and our flight paths, where our current day planes could simply just be flying around that area, where these hidden islands could be, hidden knowledge, where our flight paths are just circling it, the Garden of Eden, the place where humans had cities, where they learned to build palaces of marble, and learning all of the construction skills that we are all asking questions about worldwide today. We are all wondering who built these cathedrals. We all know at this point that the horse and wagon community did not hire Donkeys Incorporated in the 17 and 1800s to chisel away at some stone and marble and knock out the Cologne Cathedral. We know this. We know that they didn't hit the stone with a hammer, a little harder and with a little more precision than we do today. And their work just lasts forever, and ours doesn't. It's not about effort. There's knowledge involved here, and we are just getting started today. Welcome to episode 61 of my lunch break. I hope you're all having a great day, and if you're new, welcome. And I want to thank all of our sponsors over on Patreon. Thank you to FlatEarthDave.com. You can check out his app. I'll put the link in the description, and you can use my referral code, MLB. He also has my lunch break on the homeschool section of the app, which is really cool. Thank you to Rebecca Kay, Don Gaston, Christopher Arietta, The Lady Lacey Show, David and Sherry Ferguson, Edwin Johnson, Chuck Templeton, Joy Lee, Leslie Pipkins, PNR, Stephanie Nolan, The Burlesons, Suez KC, Dan Woodall, Corey Franks, Dale, DJ Clicktrack, Edward and Brianna, Jacob Law, Jim Ribley and Christine Duggan, Kyle Glascock, Tim Rack, Two Spirit, William Richard Jeffries V, PKTFnews.org, Regna Saturna, Emerald H, 3D6.space, Attila Power, Buck Suey, Dakota Dunn, D-Rob33, Eric Martinez, Ivan Apoctoli, Jesse DeLeon, Jim Bro, Kit Kat, Todd K, Edwin Rice, Helmut, Charles Kruger, Daniel Zid, Antonio Kazievich, Glenn Gunderson, Pacific Crafted, Carla Fitzgerald, HaggardT-shirts.com, Meta, Jason Hochberg, Marie C., Roy Schoenholtz, Wayne T., James Alt, Dan McGee, Vince Moreno, Samir Schwery, Stony Stargod, Roz Matthews, Shibba Shaba in the Darkness, Spartan Oneg, and VKH Bonner. You guys are all awesome and helping this channel out a lot. The Gloucester Cathedral, located in England, we are told was constructed by the people of the 1100s, 900 years ago. And of course, the narrative holds a major fire. In the year of 1088, because the narrative knows all about the year 1088, and this is fully documented, of course. No. The interior ceiling of the Gloucester Cathedral is incredible. And I am at the point where I believe that this knowledge to construct this way, architecture that doesn't fit into our mainstream history at all, of primitive people in huts, no power tools, and zero background on their training processes all over the world. This incredible architecture and construction in every single continent may have come from this continent of Mu, where they seem to have had communication with a higher power, where we are told that this is the Garden of Eden. And it shows through the construction. We have the physical evidence that they were able to construct the massive stone heads at Easter Island. And then we have this, Nan Madol, located on an island called Micronesia, a location that is connected to the land of Mu, connected to Hawaii, and connected to Easter Island, also located in the Pacific Ocean, a once great city of man-made stone islands. The construction of the artificial islets probably started 1,300 years ago, probably, maybe. When in reality, in my opinion, it wasn't 1,300 years ago and was much closer to our current timeline, where they go on to say that this was built at the exact same time as the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris, where they just eyeballed it, gave it a solid educated guess. The experts really nailed these dates, where the 12th to the 13th century seems like the winner. So it's very clear that these dates are attempts to fit this place right into their timeline of thousands of years. And what is with these maps? Throwing a layer of static right over the top of this location with a perfect 90-degree angle. It's interesting to say the least. Nan Madol has confused the mainstream narrative, and they simply don't understand how to fit this place in, where this location holds construction of megalithic architecture, where the so-called experts cannot explain it, where they say little can be verified about the megalithic construction, where we already know at this point that this land was connected to the continent of Mu, where they were given the knowledge to build palaces of marble. They learned to quarry gigantic blocks of stone and learned how to transport them long distances, and also learned how to carve stone, where we are told that they built huge stone buildings. And then they show us these depictions of it in the mainstream history, like it was actually constructed in the water, like this. When we know that it was built on land, built on the continent of Mu, it wasn't originally in the water like this. In legend, we are told that the builders lifted the huge stones with the aid of a flying dragon. So we definitely have something very interesting going on here in the Pacific Ocean, where Colonel Churchward claimed that the civilization of Mu was technologically more advanced than we are today. And is this not exactly what we're saying today? A civilization that was here before us, that we are not being told about in our mainstream history classes, that was much more advanced, with so much more technology than we have today, where we are being given all of this technology back slowly after 1776, where Columbus didn't discover anything and was a fictional character in my opinion, when the previous civilization before us didn't know of less land than we do today. Instead, they knew about more land than we do today. It's a complete opposite, where Churchward goes on to say that this advanced civilization, this group in Mu, was known as the Nakals. The dates and the years are all over the place, and it's the one thing that's impossible to translate. This is in my opinion, but this is because the year 2024 is not really the true year. I think the calendar that we use today is fabricated to completely confuse us. And the further you get away from the creation date, the further you get away from the creator. I'm not entirely sure which year we are really in. And this is why it's impossible for James Churchward to know how long ago the continent of Mu was really here. I don't believe it was thousands of years ago, like I've said before. He also goes on to say the ancient civilizations of India, which would explain why these tablets would be in an Indian temple, Babylon, Persia, Egypt, and the Mayans were built by the people of Mu. And if there was one place in the world that would be hidden from our maps today, one specific location that holds all of this technology, flying crafts, marble structures, everything, who's to say that the group of people that found this location, or the remains that were at this location and are in control today, who's to say that this group wouldn't hide this location that is the stem of all information from all of us? Is it just a coincidence that the Pacific Ocean is basically empty on our map that we are shown? And don't forget that being in control of the map is a key part of the game. What if we are playing the game with a false map? Is it possible that a part of this incredible land of Mu is still here? Is it possible that the Garden of Eden is hidden to us? Is this why we have no idea where we are, or what we're doing here, or why we're finding massive structures that make no sense in our timeline? Hiding massive continents, hiding technology, giving us a false history, giving us a false map. Is this why we are distracted with Egypt, where they tell us to look to Egypt and the pyramids, while the real location is over in the Pacific Ocean, where Church Ward claimed that the ancient Egyptian sun god Ra originated with the Mu, where Ra was the word which the Nacals used for sun, as well as for their god and rulers. Now, again, this is all information that we can hold on to for the future while we go further into this research. Finding a continent that's conveniently no longer on our map, where they were able to construct massive structures, had incredible technology, and would explain the pyramids in Egypt, is something that I cannot keep to myself. Church Ward had two major critics, and neither of them actually ever read the tablets that Church Ward did at the Indian Temple, where we have Curtis Wilgus, a historian who taught at George Washington University, where he organized and directed the Center for Latin American Affairs and also organized the school's annual Caribbean conferences. So this guy was locked in and knew all about these tablets, where the Caribbean conference organizer guy tells everybody that Church Ward's research was the strangest of fiction. It was pure imagination, based on everything that he learned over at the annual Caribbean conferences. And that's exactly how Curtis aced his college exams, by asking 0 questions and receiving 3 mainstream college history degrees, 3 of them. So we have a very open-minded individual in Curtis. Now, who is this other critic? Engineer and writer L. Sprague de Camp, where he simply dismissed the idea of the Nacal in an article in 1946. Just dismissed it. De Camp spent 10 years attending Snyder School in North Carolina, in a military-style institution where his parents were heavy-handed disciplinarians to cure him of intellectual arrogance. All right, so we have 2 critics that spent their entire life being told what to think, and they were very good at it. And those were Church Ward's critics, people that were never there, people that never spent the time in India at the temple, and had 0 proof that Church Ward was incorrect. By simply just saying that Church Ward's work is insane or mythical does not prove anything. It proves that their minds are so manipulated to the point that they can't ask any questions and can't let go of the lies that they've been told. By admitting that Church Ward's work is a possibility, it would mean that these 2 individuals would have to agree that all of their time spent learning one way of thinking and feeling like they knew more than everybody else about human history, everything that they thought was the truth, may have been a waste of time. And for some people, this is extremely difficult, and I can't fully blame them. But at the same time, they need to start asking some questions, and not towards us. We owe them nothing. We have taken a total of $0 from them. We are simply asking questions about our past. These questions should be directed towards the people, the institutions that have taken thousands of dollars from them. We are simply trying to find the truth at all costs. If a massive continent of Mu is truly out there, or even parts of it, hidden within the information that is provided, a place with marble structures and hidden technology, a hidden past, and possibly an explanation as to why these massive structures all over the world, in all of our cities, and possibly the location of the Garden of Eden. I want to know about it. Now that we know that there are basically 0 critics of James Church Ward's work, And we have records from 1925 that James Churchward learned more than just hidden history. He also learned, in my opinion, hidden technology from the previous civilization, where James Churchward owned over 100 patents. Now, I want to go even deeper. James was a soldier. He was stationed in India, where he became close friends with an elderly monk from a nearby temple, where these documents were in a secret archive in the temple. The priest or monk taught Churchward the language called Nakal, by which the tablets were written. And we know that according to Churchward's work, these were the people that lived in the continent of Mu. And the part that I find interesting is that the location of where James was stationed, the location of where this temple is located, is wiped out from our database. The fact that we cannot look up where he was based, hiding his location as colonel, proves to me that they want this information gone and hidden. As if the British government doesn't know or has lost the records of where they stationed one of their soldiers. He was stationed in India for decades, and this location of this temple is now hidden from us. Finding a continent in the middle of the Pacific Ocean was not a part of the plan. I believe that James Churchward messed up the mainstream narrative when he spoke to that elder. Having an advanced civilization that was here before us does not at all fit into the narrative that we created the first plane, the first train, the first car, the first phone, TV, the light bulb, and the rest. All in the 1800s. It would make sense that all of our worldwide technological information would all stem from the Garden of Eden, or in other words, the beginning place. A branch off to Egypt, India, Mexico, Asia, and the rest of the world. Having an advanced civilization that was here before us does not fit into the narrative that today we have the best construction processes. And it honestly disproves the evolution theory. It shows that we are not evolving and advancing. We are simply growing as we are allowed to grow. We are as advanced as we are allowed to be. And this is what James Churchward proved. And before we share this final article for today, the article that was written about James Churchward by his peers after he passed away, I want to make sure that we say thank you to all of our badge members, all of our Patreons, and every single subscriber. You are all awesome in helping this channel grow to more and more people every single week. And this is when this article clears up a lot for us. When James did not go to India with the intentions of learning any of this information. He was stationed in India and was in charge of the old priest. James was in charge of the priest. This was his role. This priest was one of the three most highly learned priests of India. Secretly stored in the archives of the temple were hundreds of clay tablets. The old rishi or priest became highly attached to James Churchward and taught him the key to the ancient alphabet. So this priest or rishi taught James this information and then showed him secret tablets. And then we actually have these massive heads at Easter Island. We actually have the structures at Nan Madol. We have physical proof that backs James Churchward's narrative up. You can physically go there and see it for yourself. So the location of this temple in India, where James was based for years, is wiped out from our knowledge. But we all know that if there is a temple out there in India with hundreds of hidden tablets that hold incredible knowledge, then there most likely is more than one. Who else has hidden knowledge that holds our true history, just waiting for us all to find it?